Hello, I'm going to show you something neat in Lightroom. So I've talked a little in class about um, how you need to show me a before and after. And I gave you one way to save a before and after, which is just to immediately export the original. And then once you've made your edits, export the finished edited image. Well, a lot of times when we're editing, we want to kind of reverse different steps along the way. Like you might get somewhere really good, and before you begin another process, you might want to save a version where you're at. So I want to show you how you do that in Lightroom Mobile. So let's just pretend I'm going to start with this picture. If you've seen K-pop Demon Hunters, my daughter dressed up as Rumi for Halloween, but she didn't want me to paint her brown hair purple. So this is her with the Rumi braid. And let's just imagine that I'm going to always use black and white as my example to make a pretty dramatic change. So first, here's my original. Well, where can I reference that original file? If you go over to the menus on the right-hand side and you see the one that looks like a clock but going backwards, this is your versions panel. The shortcut to that is Command V. I love shortcuts. Now it's interesting. Control V, Command V, Shift V. The up arrow is Shift V. Is that correct? Yes, because Command V would be the same as paste, so you wouldn't have a matching command. So the little arrows, let me go back so you can see it. Let me see that working. Shift and V, or you just click on that little backwards clock icon, and then your versions panel pops up. So I haven't researched this part, the auto versions. I don't know how frequently when you're working, it's going to save auto versions, but you can actually manually control when it makes a version. So if you select the named panel, there's your original right there. So you can actually always revert back to the original by clicking on the original thumbnail over here in the versions panel. This would be called snapshots in Photoshop and virtual copies in Lightroom Classic. So now I'm going to go ahead and make a change. So to make the change, I'm going to go to my edit panel. And just to be dramatic, I'm going to turn it black and white. And now her hair looks like it's all one color. Maybe you kind of boost the contrast and the exposure, play around with the highlights. Huh? So that's my big dramatic change. There's more than one way to get here, but let me just show you what it looks like when you shortcut back or click on the versions panel. So you either hit the icon or Shift and V. And now right here where it says create version, you just hit plus to create the version and you can name it. So I can call this black and white. And I can just even call that step 1 and create. And now it's going to live there. So then watch this. Now I'm going to go make some more changes. So what if I decide, okay, I want to play around with the bokeh and I want to mess around with that lens blur. So I'm going to go ahead and select it, apply it. I don't know how long this is going to take. This already has extremely shallow depth of field, and it was just taken on an iPhone in the portrait mode. Might not have been the best choice. We're waiting. There we go. And what does it look like if I try to change the shape? Let's boost it. It's not really showing me a big change. If I blur it a lot, you can see she almost looks like it's very unusual looking. She looks like she's sort of cut from the background. So in that case, I could go back to my versions now and I could create a version that I call black and white with bokeh. Just little things that help me know what I've done. From here, if you were exporting for your assignment, this is a shortcut to what we did in the in-person lesson today. You could just go back to the original and choose export first, and then say this was your final, and then you can choose export, or you can hit these 3 dots and export with these settings. So let's practice that. Here's the original. I'm going to choose export, and then we said we're using JPEG small. And we're just going to put this on the desktop. and hit export. So that's going to be my original. And here, when I hit the three dots and I have export with these settings, I get some different options here. I'm sort of curious if I click the version with the black and white and then just choose export here and small. Now I'm only sharing Lightroom screen with you. So let me now go ahead and share the full desktop and watch this. What do we have on the desktop? It's like a surprise. So there it is. I think that's a little bit of a better workflow. Here's my original, and here is with my edits. So original, edits. And then from here, you right click to rename. And what I've written is that you're going to write your first, I would do my first initial last name, and then before, and then if this is image 1, I put the number 1. And then for the second one, you would just do the same thing, rename, but we're going to call this after. And those are just what you're submitting to me. So if you go back to your Lightroom, let's pull it back up. You always have the original inside Lightroom, inside the cloud. So I hope that's helpful as far as versions. The other way, you can stop listening now if you know you're always going to shortcut. There's always more than one way to get somewhere. So another way to create a version is to choose photo and then create version. And then here it has the shortcut. That looks like Shift and S. So then again, create version pops up, and I'm just going to write test on this one, create, and then you see it popped up here. So I think that's pretty handy, and I hope you find that helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.